shapes and sizes. I'm a man who's got very specific taste. Yeah, you're just my type. Oh, you got a pulse and you are real. Yeah, you're just my type. Oh, I think it's time for you. Yeah, you're just my type. When there's loving in the air, don't fight it, just keep breathing. I can't help myself but stare. Double check for double meanings. I'm a man who's got very specific taste. Yeah, you're just my type. Oh, you got a pulse and you are real. Yeah, you're just my type. Oh, I think it's time to begin. Yeah, you're just my type. Yeah, you're just my type. Oh, you got a pulse and you are real. Yeah, you're just my type. Oh, I think it's time to begin. Yeah, you're just my type.
Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Indy Reporter, the 20-minute rundown. I am your host, Steve Whitmer, and boy, we have had the last 2 days have been very interesting for sure. A little bit of drama with a Mr. Bohacek, and but let's just talk about what's happening at the State House and a few things at the end. You know how it goes. 20 minutes is all we got. No more, maybe less, but let's get into it. So just a little recap from Monday too. There was a committee meeting that was from the agriculture on the Senate side. It was Senate Bill 56, and it had to do with veterinary licensing. I talked about it real quick on Monday. And I wanted to point this out because this is how normal bills happen. A lot of the times they do not happen organically. Most of the time they're brought to legislators, and this one is no different at all. Now, Jean Lysing, who is the chair of the Ag Committee, she will tell you that this bill was given to her.
Lou brought this bill to me because many of you know that we have heard over and over again how we have a shortage of veterinarians in Indiana.
All right, so, which is very true, by the way.
Well, thank you, Senator Lysing. Lou Belcher with the Corden Group on behalf of the Indiana Veterinary Medical Association.
Now, when you go and you look at the records or at the bill, see Lysing there, and you notice something very interesting that you'll see very often. Veterinary medicine PAC. Now, Jean Lysing, she got $500 from them. And when you go and look at the PAC on the Indiana campaign website, what do you see? The Indiana Veterinarian Medical Association. So she got money from these people. Now, I am not saying at all that she got money for this bill. I tell you what, like all legislators, it does help out a lot. All right, so then or was it today? No. Yeah, today. Yesterday. Dude, my days are so messed up. Not even going to lie. All right, today's Wednesday. Yesterday's Tuesday. So yesterday, we started off with the Homeland Security and Transportation, which was kind of a boring bill. I didn't even go back and look at it. However, we did have the Senate session at, I don't know, 1:30 or so. And Mike Young, Senator Mike Young, my senator, in fact, he had a really good 5-minute speech. And I just want to play a quick part of it.
But just one issue here. This is about our country and our future. And we now know that the Democrats have gained a 12-seat majority by an agency of the United States government that falsely did their job, that gave Democrat blue states more population than they should have and reduced them in our states.
Very good speech. He was all fired up, especially towards the end. That's my senator. I love him. Casey Hendrickson over at the bottom said, I've been hammering Indiana lawmakers to address the Census Bureau admission that gave it Democrats an additional 6 seats they shouldn't have had. Glad he addressed it. For sure. Casey Hendrickson over in the St. Joe County, I think like Fort Wayne area. But anyway, so after Senate session had, it was great, Brad. It was great. All right, so after the session, everybody went into their respective committees. Now, there were 2 bills that I was paying attention to. SB 78, which had to do with wireless communication device policy. Brad, I would love your opinion of this while you're in the chat. It really had to do with cell phones and enforcing, making sure that they do not, that kids aren't really messing around with them during school hours. Now, there was an interesting lobbyist. I'm going to call him a lobbyist because he is part of Bo's Public Affairs, but he brought up an interesting point.
Wanted to highlight or give some more color to Lisa's testimony on some more options. Right now, as she said, it's either leave it at home or basically go pay a vendor for a bag. Fort Wayne, that's Fort Wayne Community Schools as a member. They chose to do that.
Okay, so they're saying whether you are just going to leave the phone at home or you're going to put the cell phone into a bag. The amount of money that schools are spending is ridiculous.
And right now their expenses are running over about $520,000 for those. That's paid.
So they're spending over $500,000 on bags for cell phones. Really?
Paid for out of their safer referendum. So out of the $12 million they raised, they spent about 4% of that on the bags. Wayne Township got quoted between $230,000 and $275,000 depending on the bag and the money.
Okay, so Polly and Ducky and Brad, I want your opinion in this. You are in the chat. The school is spending over $500,000 on bags to store cell phones. Over Wayne Township, he said it's going to be closer to $250,000. $250,000 and $500,000 on bags to store up cell phones. That's crazy, right? All right, so after that, we had this major bill, Senate Bill 76 from Liz Brown. This had to do with immigration. I'm not going to get into the deets about it. However, there was another immigration bill from the House side that apparently is much stronger. It's from J.D. Prescott. They were supposed to, it passed the House last session. I'm going to keep saying last year, but it's actually last session because we're still in 2025. And then it never got a hearing in the committee. And for months and months, Todd Rokita and Jim Banks have been pounding the drum about trying to primary Liz Brown. This is where I think Liz Brown actually got spooked about losing her reelection, at least in the primary, because there is somebody who is running against Liz Brown in the primary. And she has just completely flipped. Not completely. I take that back. Not completely, but she has flipped on her position on some of it. But Rokita actually pointed out the bill, how it's soft, and it would actively shield sanctuary jurisdictions and directly undermine our ongoing lawsuits to end sanctuary policies. Jim Banks even chimed in and said Liz Brown is holding a hearing today on a very weak and soft on a legal immigration bill after she killed a strong bill last year backed by me and AG Rokita, and that was the one from J.D. Prescott. Now, I do have a comparison of bill side to side of the highlighted areas that are different from bill to bill. You can go and check them on the Indy Reporter Twitter. It's actually really well done. This is not mine, by the way. I got this from somebody else. But it compares the House bill to the Senate bill that is in there right now. Now, they're interesting. The thing that happened, a person representing the AG's office spoke at it. And I can't even explain it, but I want you to listen.
And then under that statute that is referenced, they impose civil penalties.
Okay.
So that violates federal law, and it would be challenged, and we
And she's talking about the immigration bill right now.
would lose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who would be in charge of defending that?
Well, that would be the Attorney General's office.
Who you work for?
That's correct.
So you're standing here in front of us
That's right.
Pay attention. Pay attention.
as legislators
Yep.
with your authority to defend us, saying that now that this testimony is on the record, that if we were to pass this bill, you would be conflicted out of, your office would be conflicted out of actually doing your duty, which is to actually represent the citizens of the state of Indiana.
I'm not saying that we would be conflicted out of it.
Well,
What I'm
if I
saying is
were
that we would
attorney-
lose because of the way that Supreme Court precedent is set.
What you just
You know
said
that.
is the reason why a lawyer of any clout who were to challenge this would look at this testimony and say that you even believe the Attorney General's office is here testifying, saying that a piece of legislation that we actually passed is illegal. You would not be able to defend, which is your duty, to defend the statutes that we actually promulgate.
All right, I'm not going to go any further than that, but that's getting the point. The AG's office went in there and said, hey, even if this thing gets passed, it's not going to work because of blank, blank, blank. And Greg Taylor is affirming that. Now, it did get passed out of committee, and we'll have a second hearing tomorrow, along with another bill. All right, so there are three people that I wanted to bring up. This whole meeting was very fascinating to me. This one would be the funniest, and I imagine Liz Brown is going to use this as a commercial. You ready? You ready?
Anywhere in Senate Bill 76, does it use the word race or racial profiling?
Well, ma'am,
Just answer my question, please. Does it?
I'm going to answer correctly, and no, it doesn't. However,
thank you. And
we
does
live in a race-based society.
Just a minute, ma'am.
And we have
Just-
already had
ma'am,
the
I've given you
SCOTUS ruling this year,
I've
which
been
has allowed for
gracious.
legal racial profiling.
Okay, never mind. We're done. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Anybody else have a question, though?
Now, the two all-stars from this committee meeting were two people. They were Nate Roberts, who was the brother of Nick Roberts, the Indianapolis City Councilman, and also Joseph Borka. These were two banger testimonies, and even Greg Taylor and Rodney Paul tried pressuring Nate Roberts, based Roberts, by the way, into trying to flip the way that he's looking at everything. And Nate Roberts did a really good job on handling all the pressure, stayed firm on his stance, make sure that he clarified everything. It was well done by Nate Roberts. However, Joseph Borka, he did not even get a question asked by Rodney Paul or Greg Taylor. And you can tell right when he got done talking, he looked at both of them and said, you got something for me? You got something for me? Didn't even happen. Now, what's funny about Joseph Borka, too, is that he was supposed to have a debate on a certain political pundit, but then it got canceled, and it was not because of Joseph Borka. Weird how that happens, huh? All right, so what happened today? Well, there's a lot of boring stuff, but I was looking forward to the actual Senate session. I tried listening to the pensions and labor meeting, and I just got so bored. Basically, what it had to do was, hey, government is going to be spending more money on pensions. That's basically all it really came down to. Now then, right before, what is it, 12:58? Yeah. Right before we were supposed to meet, or they were supposed to meet for the Senate session, this tweet came out from Brett Galazewski. Say good morning to all Hoosiers, except for GOP Senator Ryan Mishler, who's skipping out on being present for the 9-0 congressional vote because he's in Florida. Now, where he spends half the year and even uses a Florida area code on his personal cell phone. I did not know that, which actually explains his tan. I mean, his tan is there all the time. It's lovely. I'm not going to even lie. I even said to myself, man, this guy's got to be in Florida all the time. Turns out I'm actually right. Now, some of you out there are saying, well, he needs to be primaried ASAP. Spoiler alert, he just won his re-election last year. So you're going to have to wait 4 more years, and you're going to have to make sure you get a lot of money. Because not only is Ryan Mishler chair of the Appropriations Committee, he's also chair of the State Budget Committee. So he is handling a lot of money, which means what? A lot of people will be giving him money so they can get what they want. He's also on the Medicaid committee too, but I think he's only on there for a year. And for those who, he ran unopposed. In fact, since 2008, he's only had 2 opposition elections, one in 2008 and one in 2020. As you can see here, he completely demolished them, 75-25 in the general election. So he is in a very red area. And I'm telling you guys, please take my advice on all this. If you're going to try and primary any of these people, whether it's Bray, whether it's Mishler in 28, whether it's any of these people, it can only be one person that goes against them. If you have any more than that, the incumbent will win. Trust me, this happens all the time where somebody's trying to defeat the incumbent and there are 3 people in the primary. And do you know what happens? The incumbent ends up winning. That just happened last year with, was it Bohachik? Pretty sure it's Bohachik. Let's see. We got plenty of time, don't you worry. Pretty sure it's Bohachik. He had a election last year too. Yeah, look, 3-way primary with Spencer Anglin, Joe Lane. And if it wasn't for one of those 2, Bohachik would have lost. All right, I can promise you that. 44% of the vote. And also, Spencer Anglin did announce that he will be running against Michael Bohachik. But guess what? It's not for another 4 years. So what are you going to do? Just take my advice, please. All right. Now, then leading up to the Senate session, we got up to the floor. Not a whole lot happened except for Mike Young going on a blazing 13-minute speech. I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously, but he did bring up a few things. One was he talked about the polls, and he said, actually, the polls are like 2/3 of the Republicans' support of what we are doing pertaining to redistricting. He also mentioned George Soros money and also getting paid protesters. And funny enough, Ken Colbert, however you pronounce his last name, I don't care. He actually had pictures of a charter buses outside of the State House, both with Illinois plates, apparently. And Mike Young, as usual, being based as his usual self. There were 3 amendments, one from Fady Kador, one from J.D. Ford, and one from Lonnie Randolph. They all failed by a voice vote. Why is this important? I was a little bit concerned. I'm like, there was no energy at all coming from the Democrats. Dude, there were hours at the House and all 3 readings, at the second and third reading, talking about this. Like, I think it was every Democrat state rep spoke of how much they didn't like it for the most part. Not every single one of them, but definitely the vast majority of them. And they didn't even ask, in the Senate, they didn't even ask for a roll call. They asked for a voice vote. It was just a voice vote, which tells me one of 2 things. Either they had, or 3 things. They had something better to do, they have no energy, or they are expecting this to fail tomorrow. Which right now, I think all of you guys know, it's down to the wire. Tomorrow is the day. Now, after session ended, it's going to go to third reading, which is tomorrow. Hannah Adamson talked to Michael Kreider, and he said he has received multiple threats this week alone. Whatever that means, who knows? And he says he'll be voting no on redistricting tomorrow. I'm not sure if Michael Kreider has a re-election next year, but if he does, maybe you guys should try and primary him. I'm just going to say, if you guys want to primary some of these people, you're going to have to come up with a lot of money and a lot of organization. Just letting you know. He did have a re-election that, oh my God, it's even worse than I thought. He not only had a re-election last year, but he didn't even have a Democrat on the ticket. It was a Libertarian and still got 78% of the vote. Yeah, I mean, he's in a Republican stronghold. So, hey, here's some advice for you. If you're going to do a primary against them, just say, hey, when Donald Trump asked for their help, they all gave him the middle finger. That's all you really got to say. Yeah, when they do, hey Brad, when they do the roll call, they'll find out who voted against it. All right, so during that time, though, we'll end up finding out 2 more state senators are signed up as being sponsored on the bill of HB 1032, Mike Young and Gary Burns. So that leads us to public mess of 6 people, actually 7 people if you include the author. All right, so what does that mean for tomorrow? Well, that means third reading. There's supposed to be a committee meeting, but it's not happening. So, in other news, though, because I only have 3 minutes left, Tiffany Ditlevison, however you pronounce her last name, she has said that she is running an exploratory committee to run for District 31, which is Kyle Walker's district. However, She will have a primary against Juanita Albright, who is the sister of Carlin Yoder. Be very interesting if she does decide to run. I don't like Tiffany. I just don't. I think she's establishment regime and pompous and a Hamilton County elitist. Now, some of these people were getting a little bit upset when we posted up about the IU trustee about switching it back from what it was snuck in last year. And listen, after last night with the Bohachik drama, I was not having it. All right, you are going to get a snarky answer because I was not dealing with it this morning. So, whatever. And other bills, though, we do have a student water safety bill, which is amusing because it basically teaches people, hey, you up to grade 12. Imagine being a 17-year-old and having to be taught not of, hey, you should watch out for deep water. Hey, do you know drowning is a thing? Can't believe it. I don't know. I'm just laughing about the whole thing. And then preservation of election material. I don't have enough time to talk about this, but I did get a reason for this bill. It's actually pretty important because it has to do with election integrity and people voting when they weren't not supposed to in 2020. I'm going to make sure that I talk about this on Friday. Also, in other bills, we had that one, various election matters. Proposition bets. Basically, college athletes cannot have prop bets on the sport that they play. Now, what is happening tomorrow? Well, we have a session at 1:30, and this will decide if HB 1032 redistricting actually happens or not. Now, I'm sure you're noticing on here that there's a possible session for Friday and also a possible session for Friday in the House. That is because last week they voted to come back on the 12th on the House side if the Senate changed the bill, basically having a concurrence. They say, hey, we didn't like the bill, we changed it our own, and then the House and the Senate have to meet and figure out the details. This is the backdoor stuff, really. Obviously, I don't think the bill's changed at all, as far as I know. So whatever happens tomorrow, unless there's an amendment that is approved, they will not be meeting on Friday. Most likely, anyway. So, on Friday, 8 o'clock p.m., Indy Reporter, 20-minute rundown. We'll be back, possibly for the last show of the year of this pilot. And don't you worry, there will be lots to talk about. So make sure you come back on Friday. Love you guys. Bye.